Hi boys and girls. This video is going to talk about area of squares and rectangles and how we use the formula for each to help us solve problems. Now, as you can see my board here, I have it divided, squares on one side and rectangles on the other. So let's just take a look at squares first. Let's kind of ignore this side of our board. Let's just focus on squares. Now, as you can see on my board, I have it divided into two parts under squares. Sometimes you are going to have a problem where your area is unknown and you have to solve for the inside part, but sometimes you will be given your area and you will be having to figure out the length of your sides. So I'm going to show you an example of each. So let's take the first one, area unknown. Let's say that I give you a square and I label those squares with 5 inches. Now, first of all, let me figure out what my formula for area of a square is. Area of a square, since squares have sides that are equal in length, I know to get that array, I have to multiply one side times the other side. So let's solve this. I am not going to solve this without writing my formula first. Area equals side times side. Now it's just a matter of plugging in my numbers into my formula to solve. So I'm going to write my A again. This time for my S's, I'm going to put my numbers. One side is 5, and since this is a square, so is my other side. Now I'm going to do the math. I know that 5 times 5 gets me to 25, but I am not finished until I write my unit of measure. Area is written in square units because it's the inside of your polygon, and these are in inches. Now, I used my formula pretty easy there, just plugged in my numbers. Now, sometimes you will be given the area and it's going to be your job to figure out the length of the sides. Now, I'm going to show you how to solve that and how to think that through. I cannot think that without writing my formula first. So I'm going to go ahead and write down my formula for area of a square, which is side times side. Now, let's get to the problem. Say Miss Moore gives you a square and I say my square has a measure of 36 square inches. And I want to know what the length of the sides are. Now, I can use my formula and plug in the parts I do know, but for this I have to think backwards. So let's plug in what we do know to our formula. Now, my area, I know my area, it's 36. So I'm just going to plug that 36 there under the A for area. And what I don't know are my sides. That is my question. That's my mystery. Now, you know that squares have equal sides, so whatever number we have here, they have to be the exact same number. And you have to think backwards, okay? Something times something will get me to 36. What times what gets you to 36? Now, I know that 9 times 4 gets me to 36, but if I put a 9 and a 4 in my square, does that make sense? Nope, it does not, because squares have equal sides. So let's think to ourselves. Well, I know that 2 times 2 is 4, 3 times 3 is 9, 4 times 4 is 16, 5 times 5 is 25, 6 times 6 is 36. Oh, I just found it. 36 area is equal to 6 times 6. That is the length of my side. So if I come back over here and plug in that 6 for the length of my sides, does that make sense? I can use my formula to check my work. If area is side times side, is 6 times 6 36? Yes, it is. So I just found my side. So I can say that the length of one side is square 6 inches. Excuse me. Now, let's move over here to rectangles. The formula for a rectangle, since rectangles have different side lengths, they do not have the same side. It's a little different for area of a square. Remember, rectangles have a length and they have a width. So my area is length times width. And again, you could be given two situations, one where you will have to find the area, but you could also be given a question where your area is given to you and you will have to either find the length or the width. So let's do an example of each. If I give you a problem like Miss Moore has a picture frame, it measures 11 centimeters by 7 centimeters. What is the area of my picture frame? Well, I'm going to start by writing my formula, length times width. I'm going to plug in the parts of my formula that I do know. I don't know my area yet, so I'm going to rewrite that. Now I'm going to plug in for my L, I'm going to plug in 11. For my W, my width, I'm going to plug in a 7. Now I can do my math. I know that 11 times 7 is 77. And since I'm finding area, the inside measure with our array, I know that that is in square units, and I said centimeters. So that was pretty simple. I used my formula to find the area. Now let's talk about area known and if we have a missing part. So again, before I even begin, I'm going to go ahead and write down my formula for a rectangle, which is length times width. Now formulas help us because any part of this formula I know I can just plug in those numbers and work from there. So let's say I give you a problem like Miss Moore has an area of, let's say 72 square, let's just do inches, okay? Now, if I have an area of 72 inches and the length is 9 inches, what is my width? So I can work from there to solve. Let's use our formula, plug in what we know. Now I know my area, it is 72, so I'm just gonna plug in my 72 right there below that A. Now this problem, I was given my length, which we said was 9 inches, but the width is our unknown, so for that width, I'm gonna put a question mark. Now that I have my numbers plugged in, now I just have to think backwards, okay? I have to think, 72 is equal to 9 times something. 9 times something. Something times 9 gets me to 72. What could that be? Something times 9. Something times 9. Something times 9. Did you get an 8? I hope so. So 8 would be my missing side. 8. So I could say that my width is equal to 8 inches. And again, I can go back and plug in my formula of length times width to check myself. If I go back and multiply 8 times 9, does that get us to 72? Yes, it does. So let's just quickly recap. For finding area of squares and rectangles, I can use my formula to help me of a square, side times side. If our area is unknown, I plug in the parts I do know. If my area is known and I know, well, in a square, you would probably not be given your sides. You would have to figure that out. And so we solved it from there. And with a rectangle, our formula is length times width. We solved for the area unknown. We just took our numbers and plugged them in for our length, plugged it in for our width, did the math, found it. And then if your area is known, you plug in your area that you do know, and you plug in the part that you do know. Either you know your length or you know your width. And then from there, you have to think backwards. Something times 9 got me to 72, or we didn't even talk about division. I could have thought 72 divided by 9 gets me to what? And we came up with 8 inches. So I hope that helped you learn how to use your formula to solve for area of squares and rectangles. Thank you for watching.